Mountaineers call her cursed. They whisper that men die around her. Clara Moreau, a French climber who conquered 8 of the world's highest peaks, leaving behind a trail of mysterious tragedies. Some believe she's the greatest female alpinist of all time. Others call her the Black Widow, bringing death into the mountains. Today we uncover the truth about a woman whose life turned into legend. How a girl from the French Alps became a conqueror of the planet's tallest summits, and why her name is still spoken in hushed tones at mountain camps. At one base camp, beneath the northern wall, Clara and her partner Eric spent a night together, where passion and cold collided. The wind tore at the tent, snow lashed the slopes, but inside it was warm, far too warm for a frozen wilderness. In the morning, he said, "Tomorrow we climb." She replied, "Too soon, the mountain isn't ready." But after that night, the decision had already been made. It would prove fatal for him, and the beginning of her fame. It all starts in 1974, the town of Chamonix at the foot of Mont Blanc. Little Clara Moreau straps on skis for the first time. She's only 5, but the mountains are already calling. Her father's a ski instructor. Her mother works in a travel agency. The family lives and breathes the mountains. Clara grows up among cliffs and glaciers. At 10, she's climbing vertical walls. At 14, she summits her first 4,000-meter peak. While her classmates play with dolls, she studies climbing routes. At 18, Clara earns her mountain guide certificate, the youngest in French alpine history. Instructors are stunned by her technique. She moves on rock like a dancer, on ice like a fish through water. 1996 becomes a turning point. Clara competes in an ice climbing championship in Italy, the only woman among 40 men. They laugh. What could a small French girl do against seasoned Swiss and Austrian climbers? Clara says nothing. She knows the mountains don't forgive arrogance. On the first day, she places 3rd. On the second, she climbs to 2nd place. In the finals, only 3 contenders remain. The crowd goes silent. Clara begins her final climb up the ice wall. Every move is precise, every strike of her tool deliberate. She ascends slowly, but relentlessly. First place slips away by mere seconds, but the bronze medal is hers. Reporters swarm her, asking for the secret of her success. Clara answers simply, "The mountains taught me not to fear heights. Now I'm learning not to fear the depths." No one understands what she means. The meaning will come later, when her partners start to disappear. But first, the tragedy that changes everything. Jean-Luc Delarue, Clara's mentor, the man who opened the world of great mountains to her. Just an ordinary training day near Chamonix. Jean-Luc tests a new route for clients. Clara is belaying from below. A rock the size of a football breaks loose from the ledge. Jean-Luc doesn't have time to dodge. Clara watches as her teacher falls into the void. The rescue operation lasts 6 hours. All they recover is his body. Her friends expect Clara to give up climbing. Instead, she vanishes for 3 months. When she returns, she's different. Her eyes are harder, her smile rarer. She announces a new goal, all 14 of the world's 8,000ers. No oxygen, solo. Her colleagues call it suicide. Clara calls it honor. Her first serious expedition, the Andes, 1997. Aconcagua, 6,961 meters. Not an 8,000er, but perfect preparation. Clara climbs light, without a support team. Local guides shake their heads. A young white girl can't possibly survive the mountains alone. 7 days later, Clara stands on the summit. She descends without incident. The climbing community begins to take notice of the French mountaineer. Maybe she really is capable of more. 1998 brings her first real test, Everest, 8,849 meters. Clara is invited to join an international expedition as a mountain guide. The team is a mix, Americans, Germans, Nepalis. The leader is an experienced Swiss alpinist, Ulrich Steiner. Clara studies the route for months. She reads every expedition report since 1953, memorizes every dangerous section, every trap the mountain sets. She knows, on Everest, mistakes are never forgiven. The climb begins in May. The weather is fickle, the wind stronger than usual. The first camps go smoothly. Clara feels confident. The altitude doesn't crush her, her body adapts quickly. At 7,000 meters, problems start. One of the Americans develops pulmonary edema. They have to get him down. The team loses time and strength. Steiner makes the call. The summit push is delayed by a week. That week proves fatal. The weather window slams shut. The monsoon arrives early. The team descends empty-handed. For Clara, it's her first real defeat. That evening in base camp, she makes a decision that will change her life. No more teams, no more compromises. Only her, the mountain, and the sky. The 8,000ers will become her personal war. Clara returns to France. She sells her apartment, quits her job. Everything goes into preparing for the next expeditions. Friends try to dissuade her. Her parents beg her to stop. Clara won't bend. Her new rule is simple and brutal. 8,000ers, no oxygen, completely solo. Summit or death. Nothing in between. The climbing world watches. What can the French climber really do against the highest, most dangerous mountains on Earth? Soon, everyone will find out. 1999, the International Mountaineering Festival in Chamonix. Clara stands at a booth filled with photos of 8,000ers. Next to her appears a tall American with piercing blue eyes, Eric Lindbergh, 29, conqueror of Denali and McKinley. "Beautiful mountains," he says in broken French. Clara smirks. "Beauty kills." Eric doesn't understand, not yet. Their meeting grows into something more. Eric is fascinated by the French climber who speaks of mountains as if they're alive. Clara finds in him what she's been missing, understanding. He's just as obsessed with altitude, just as willing to risk everything for a summit. A month later, they're already planning a joint expedition. The goal, Fitzroy in Patagonia. Not an 8,000er, but one of the most technically demanding peaks in the world. Granite spires that test even the best climbers on the planet. Patagonia greets them with storm winds and freezing rain. The weather changes every half hour. Sun one moment, snow the next, then a hurricane blast. Eric grows restless. He's used to the predictability of American mountains. Clara is calm. Chaos is her element. Their base camp stood at the foot of the North Face. Eric studied the route through his binoculars, tracing every crevasse in the glacier. Clara wasn't looking at maps or lines of ascent. She was looking at the mountain itself, sensing it as if it were alive. That evening, as the wind began to ease, they returned to the tent. The cramped space, the smell of melted snow and camp stove fuel vanished in an instant when the tension between them broke. They made love, hot, desperate, as if it were the only way to keep warm, the only way to survive on this frozen wall. Their passion was so fierce that the tent, frozen stiff during the day, filled with heat. Outside, the storm rattled the fabric, but inside the air quivered with their breath and movement. The cold gave way. The walls of the tent dripped with condensation, their bodies with sweat. Eric seemed determined to prove he could conquer not only the summits, but her heart. Clara matched him with the same intensity, as if the mountain itself had given them a piece of its energy. When at last they fell silent, exhausted, the tent was truly warm. Eric whispered, "Tomorrow morning we go." Clara shook her head. Too soon. The mountain isn't ready. But after that night, he could no longer step back. And for the first time, she chose to silence her own instincts. For him, "If we climb today, everything will be fine," Eric insisted. He wasn't just talking about the ascent. He meant their relationship, their future, the life they imagined together. Clara nodded. Love outweighed caution. The first 300 meters went smoothly. Solid granite, secure holds. Eric led, Clara belayed. They moved in rhythm, almost as one. The American smiled. It felt like his plan was working. At 800 meters, the snow began. Light at first, almost nothing. Eric ignored it. Clara felt uneasy. The mountain was warning them. But she said nothing. She trusted her partner. Another 100 meters higher, the rock glazed over with a thin sheet of ice. Holds turned slick. Eric slowed, hesitation creeping in. Clara suggested turning back. The American refused. Too much had gone into this climb. The fatal moment came at 1,200 meters. Eric tried to traverse onto a neighboring wall. The hold betrayed him. Beneath a thin crust of ice was only loose stone, and the American fell. Clara hears a short scream, then the crack of impact against rock. The rope snaps tight. The jolt nearly pulls her off the wall. Eric dangles 30 meters below, conscious but with his left leg twisted at an impossible angle. "Broken!" he yells through the pain. Clara descends to him. It's an open fracture, Without immediate care, the risk is infection, gangrene, even amputation. Getting him down will take a full day. Clara looks up, only 300 meters to the summit. The route is clear, the weather steady, 4 hours to the top and back. "Wait for me here," she tells him. Eric can't believe what he's hearing. "Are you insane? I need help." Clara checks his anchor, leaves him a first aid kit and a thermos of hot tea. "I'll be back in 6 hours. Hold on." Eric screams after her, begging her to stay. Clara doesn't look back. The mountain calls louder than love. 3 hours later, the summit of Fitzroy opens before her. Clara stands on the peak, gazing out over Patagonia's endless ice. She takes a few photos. The descent is uneventful. She finds Eric where she left him. He's pale with pain, but still alive. He speaks only what's necessary. Clara rigs the descent, slow, cautious, with countless stops. At base camp, a rescue helicopter waits. The break is severe, several surgeries ahead. Doctors say he's lucky. The tissue hasn't begun to die. Eric doesn't say goodbye. He boards the helicopter and disappears from Clara's life forever. Later, she learns he never climbs again. He becomes a rock climbing instructor in California. Clara stays in Patagonia for another month, completing 2 solo ascents. The local guides start calling her the Ice Princess. She doesn't object. Ice truly runs in her veins. Back in France, she's met with both fame and outrage. Mountaineering magazines write of the ruthless Frenchwoman. Her peers whisper that Clara sacrificed love for ambition. She remains silent. Her eyes are already fixed on greater goals. The 8,000ers await. K2, the savage mountain, the second highest peak on Earth, pulls at her the strongest. The year 2000 brings new opportunities. A Swiss expedition to K2 is searching for an experienced climber. Clara applies. Team leader Matthias Krohn knows her reputation, but admires her skill. The French climber is accepted. At the same time, a Russian-American expedition is gearing up for K2. Clara sees the roster and freezes. Eric Lindbergh is coming back to the big mountains. Limp or not, fear or not, he can't live without altitude. Patagonia brings them together again. Only now they're rivals. Clara sizes it up coldly. The Swiss team is strong but conservative. They'll move slowly by the book with maximum safety. The Russian-American group is more aggressive, less organized. She has a plan. A week before flying to Pakistan, Clara meets the Russian climber Igor Volkov. She proposes a quiet arrangement. She'll help his team with logistics in exchange for access to their high camps. Volkov agrees. He knows what her help is worth. He doesn't realize the Frenchwoman intends to use their hard work for her own dash to the summit. K2 greets the expeditions as usual, with snowstorms and avalanche danger. Base camp goes up at 5,200 meters. The two teams pitch close, but keep to themselves. Clara plays the devoted member of the Swiss group by day. At night, she slips information to the Russians. Matthias Krohn, a mountain guide with 20 years in the game, spots what sets Clara apart. She doesn't just climb, she dances with the mountain. Every move is natural, every step measured. The Swiss guide starts to feel more than professional interest. Clara senses it, uses it. Matthias becomes her unwitting ally in the game against K2. He shares the Swiss plans, points out weak sections on the route. Clara listens, commits it all to memory, and plots. The first summit push begins in June. The weather holds, winds are moderate. Both teams move at the same time, but on different lines. The Swiss choose the classic Abruzzi Ridge. The Russians and Americans take the shorter but more technical north face. At 6,500 meters, Clara spots a familiar figure on the neighboring route. Eric is climbing slowly, with effort. The left leg is clearly troubling him. But the American is stubborn. He'll go all the way or not at all. Camp 2, 7,200 meters. Matthias is struggling with altitude sickness. Clara tends to him, but in her mind she's already planning her escape. The Swiss team is too slow. She'll get ahead of them all. That night, Clara slips out unnoticed. She crosses over to the Russians. Volkov greets her without surprise. He's been expecting this. She gains access to their fixed ropes, stocked camps, and supplies. By morning, Matthias discovers she's gone. The Swiss guide is furious, betrayed and used. He descends to base camp, gathers his team, and quits K2. "I won't work with a traitor," he tells reporters. The rumors spread instantly. Clara Moreau, the climber who rides on the backs of others for her own glory. She steals ropes, occupies prepared camps, abandons partners at the worst possible moment. The Russian-American team fractures. Some climbers back Clara. She's strong, skilled, and increases their chances of success. Others are outraged by her methods. Eric says nothing. He understands her motives better than anyone. Camp 3, 7,800 meters, becomes the turning point. The weather turns. A snowstorm locks them in their tents for 3 days. Oxygen supplies run low. Eric suffers frostbite on his toes, an old injury coming back to haunt him. Clara feels fine. She doesn't use oxygen. Her body has adapted perfectly to the altitude. While the others battle sickness, she studies the route to the summit. A plan sharpens in her mind. "You're selfish," Eric snaps during the storm. "You use people like rungs on a ladder." Clara doesn't deny it. "The mountains don't forgive weakness. I choose strength." The American looks at the woman he once loved. She's changed, harder, colder. The altitude is stripping away her humanity, leaving only the drive to climb higher. "I was wrong about you," Eric says. Clara answers without emotion. "No, you were wrong about the mountains. You thought they would forgive weakness, but mountains take everything: time, strength, soul. If you're not ready to give it all, you get nothing." By the 4th day of the storm, Eric can't climb anymore. His frostbitten toes have turned black, infection setting in. He needs to descend immediately or face amputation. Volkov organizes the descent for the American. Clara stays behind in the high camp, waiting. The weather window could open at any moment, and she has to be ready. The farewell is wordless. In her eyes, Eric doesn't see the woman he once loved, only a predator poised to strike. K2 has changed her completely. Eric leaves the mountain defeated twice, by the peak and by the woman. His toes are saved, but his climbing career is over. He returns to America to start a new life. No mountains, no Clara, no illusions. Clara remains on K2. Now she's part of the Russian team. Volkov admires her endurance, but he feels uneasy. The Frenchwoman buys support by betraying others. That's the price of her ambition. Rumors of Clara's parasitic climbing spread through base camp. Other expeditions keep their distance. No one wants to become the next casualty of her ego. But Clara doesn't care about whispers. Her focus is locked on one thing: the summit of K2. Nothing else matters. Reputation, friendship, love, everything can be sacrificed to the mountain. Matthias Krohn becomes her next target, the German climber in the Russian team, experienced, strong, and infatuated. Clara sees him as a key to the summit, and she begins a new game. Day 5 at 7,800 meters. The storm breaks, a weather window opens. Clara prepares for the final push. Matthias lies injured in his tent. He can't go higher. Volkov stays back too, his heart failing him at altitude. Clara has to go alone, but the route to the summit isn't fixed. The deadliest sections still need ropes. Laying them will take a full day, time she doesn't have. Then, a sudden message crackles over the radio. Eric Lindbergh is climbing up from Camp 2. Frostbitten feet, pain with every step, yet he's making one last attempt. Slow, agonizing, but upward. Through her binoculars, Clara watches him fight. He stops every 100 meters to rub life back into his feet, to push through the pain. But he keeps going. On the hardest pitches, he sets ropes, for himself, for the team, for anyone who dares follow. By evening, the American reaches Camp 4. He's only 200 meters above Clara. The path to the summit is now open. Eric has fixed lines on every critical section. Any strong climber could reach the peak in 8 hours. Clara doesn't hesitate. At 3 in the morning, she leaves camp. She climbs the route Eric prepared, using his ropes, his anchors, his work. The American sleeps in his tent, drained by altitude and frostbite. Her ascent goes flawlessly. She moves fast, sure-footed. Eric's ropes hold strong, his route carefully chosen. At dawn, she reaches the shoulder below the summit ridge, just an hour from the top of K2. But the weather turns again. A sudden storm rolls in, visibility collapsing to zero. Clara searches for cover, finds a shallow snow cave. She crawls inside and waits for the mountain to give her another chance. The storm rages for 18 hours. Clara conserves her warmth. eats snow, fights off sleep. She knows if she drifts off at this altitude, she may never wake up. The cold cuts through even the warmest gear. By morning, her strength is gone. Her body screams for descent, for warmth, for oxygen. Clara tries to crawl out of the cave, but her legs won't respond. Altitude sickness is taking hold. She's saved by French climber Jules Renard. He ascends with a support team, searching for the missing countrywoman. He finds Clara half-conscious. A few more hours, and it would have been too late. The descent becomes a nightmare. Clara can barely stand. Jules practically carries her down. They use the fixed ropes Eric set. The Americans' lines save the French climber from death. At Camp 3, Eric himself is waiting. Exhausted from his own summit attempt, feet swollen with frostbite, he still helps bring Clara down. Wordless, without reproach, like a true mountaineer. "Thank you," Clara whispers when they reach Camp 2. Eric nods. The mountains spare no one, not even you. It's their final conversation. Back at base camp, Clara is hailed as a heroine. She climbed higher than any woman in K2's history, up to 8,400 meters, only 200 meters from the summit. Almost success, almost triumph. Journalists crowd around for interviews. Clara speaks of battling the elements, of courage and endurance. She doesn't mention Eric's ropes, the Russian support, or the betrayal of the Swiss. In her version, she fought K2 alone. Eric listens from the neighboring tent. He knows the truth, but stays silent. His reputation was already broken in Patagonia. Why ruin someone else's glory? 6 months later, Clara's memoir is published. The title, Alone Against K2. It becomes a bestseller in France, translated into 8 languages. Eric Lindbergh is mentioned only briefly, as one of the expedition members. His role in saving Clara's life, erased. Pakistani authorities fine Clara for breaking expedition rules. Switching between teams without permission is forbidden. The fine is symbolic, $1,000. The fame from her climb is worth far more. The year 2001 brings new plans. Everest is calling again. Clara prepares for a solo expedition. No team, no support, no compromises. Just her and the highest mountain on Earth. Nepalese authorities deny her a permit. Solo climbs on Everest are banned for safety reasons. Clara finds a loophole. She applies as part of a fictitious international expedition. The papers are fake but convincing. She secures a permit, buys a spot at base camp. Officially, she's part of a 6-person team. In reality, she climbs alone. The deception is exposed at 7,500 meters. Nepalese Sherpas report the violation. A fine and a future ban await her. But Clara is already high on the mountain, already too close to her goal. Other teams on Everest treat the Frenchwoman with caution. The rumors from K2 have reached the Himalayas. Clara Moreau, the climber who feeds off others' resources and abandons partners. No one wants to be involved with her. Clara doesn't mind. Isolation only hardens her resolve. She moves past other expeditions like a ghost, fast, silent, drawing no attention. She rests in their camps, clips into their ropes. At 8,500 meters, she catches up to a British team. Their leader, James Carter, recognizes her and forbids her from touching their gear. Clara shrugs. She'll manage without anyone's help. The final 300 meters, she climbs truly alone. No oxygen, no support, no protection. At dawn, on May 23, 2001, Everest yields to the French climber. The descent is uneventful. Back at base camp, Clara is met by journalists and a fine from Nepalese authorities, $15,000 for breaking expedition rules. Clara pays without complaint. The summit of Everest is worth any price, but the mountaineering world is divided. Some admire the courage of the French climber, others condemn her methods. Clara Moreau becomes the most controversial figure in modern alpinism. The British magazine Alpine Review runs a provocative cover. Clara's photo against the backdrop of K2 with the headline, "The Black Widow of Mountaineering." The article lists every man scarred by her presence: Eric Lindbergh, Matthias Krohn, and the abandoned members of past expeditions. Clara reads the piece and laughs. The Black Widow. She likes the name. It captures the essence of her relationship with the mountains. She takes everything from them, giving nothing in return. That, she believes, is the true nature of an alpinist. The French press rises to defend her. Accusations of parasitism are dismissed as envy. To them, Clara Moreau is a pioneer of women's climbing, a model to follow. Clara herself avoids the spotlight. She grants interviews only to select journalists, carefully shaping the story. In her version, she is always the heroine. Other people's sacrifices become her triumphs. Her ambitions grow larger, all 14 8,000ers without oxygen. Clara has already chosen her next target, Kangchenjunga, the third highest peak on Earth, a mountain that kills 1 in 4 who attempt it. The climbing world holds its breath. What else can this woman achieve, who has turned climbing into an art of survival? And how many more lives will her ambition claim? The Black Widow is preparing for her next hunt. 2003. A sensation rocks a mountaineering camp in Nepal. Journalists from the French magazine Montagne publish excerpts from Clara Moreau's personal diary. The notes were found in her backpack after her climb on Manaslu. Matthias looks at me like a dog at its master. I use that. Eric was stronger in spirit, but weaker in body. Dimitri, the opposite. I wonder how long he'll last by my side. The diary exposes the cold, calculating side of the famous climber. To her, men are tools for reaching summits. She studies their weaknesses, plays with their feelings, manipulates their emotions. But there are other passages too, about fear she hides from the world. Every night I see the faces of those who never came back. Jean-Luc falling into the abyss again and again. Eric screaming in pain. I climb higher while they stay below. The mountaineering community erupts. Veterans call for a boycott of any expedition involving Clara. Younger climbers defend her. Survival in the mountains, they argue, is a matter of personal strategy. She played with men's lives like chess pieces, says Swiss climber Hans Müller. She used their love to reach her goals. That's not sport. That's cold-blooded calculation. Clara responds through her lawyers. The diary was stolen illegally, the entries ripped from context. Private thoughts, she insists, can't be proof of public accusations. But her reputation has already taken the hit. The Black Widow becomes an outcast in the climbing world. Sponsors cut ties, expeditions avoid her. Clara is left alone with her ambition, and a growing list of enemies, but she doesn't give up. On the contrary, she plans the boldest climb of her career, Dhaulagiri, the 7th highest mountain on Earth, 8,167 meters of pure danger, a peak that keeps a third of its climbers forever. Avalanches, ice falls, unpredictable weather, Dhaulagiri doesn't forgive mistakes. Clara assembles a team of outcasts. Dmitry Sokolov, a Russian climber expelled from the national team after clashes with coaches. Lorenzo Bianchi, an Italian who lost his guide license after an accident. Desperate people for a desperate expedition. Dmitry falls for Clara at first sight. To the Russian climber, she seems like a kindred spirit, just as obsessed, just as willing to give everything for the summit. Clara accepts his feelings as if they were inevitable. Dmitry will be her next instrument. Lorenzo keeps his distance. The Italian knows her reputation, knows the danger, but he needs money and a shot at redemption. Dhaulagiri could win him back a place in the climbing world. October 2003. Base camp on Dhaulagiri. A 3-person team prepares for the ascent. The forecast is unstable, a storm in a week. They'll have 7 days to make it. The climb begins in perfect conditions. Clear skies, light winds, manageable cold. Clara leads, choosing the route. Dmitry and Lorenzo follow like shadows. Camp 1 at 6,200 meters. Dmitry confesses his love. Clara answers with a kiss, but her eyes stay cold. Lorenzo watches from the side, shaking his head. The Russian is walking to his own slaughter. Camp 2, 7,100 meters. The weather shifts. Winds rise. Clouds bury the summit. Lorenzo suggests retreat. The storm is coming faster than predicted. Clara insists they push on. They still have 2 days. Camp 3 at 7,800 meters is pitched in a blizzard. The tents shake under the wind. Visibility is 0. Lorenzo demands they descend immediately. Clara and Dmitry refuse. Tomorrow will be the final push. The Italian goes down alone. He's seasoned enough to know what reckless risk costs. Clara and Dmitry remain in the high camp, alone together. One last night before the summit. By midnight, the storm intensifies. The The wind tears at the tent lines. Snow buries the entrance. Clara and Dimitri press against each other in their sleeping bags. The cold seeps through every layer. "If we die, then together," Dimitri whispers. Clara stays silent. She has no intention of dying on Dhaulagiri. She has plans for other 8,000ers. By morning, the storm eases. Lorenzo climbs up from Camp 2 to check on his teammates. He finds their tent buried under snow, the entrance sealed with ice. Inside, silence. He shouts, pounds on the walls. Nothing. He digs for hours, hacking at ice hard as concrete. When Lorenzo finally breaks through, he finds Dimitri. The Russian lies in his sleeping bag, face blue, frozen to death. Clara is gone. Tracks lead away from the tent, up the slope. Clara had left camp in the middle of the storm. She went alone, abandoning Dimitri to the cold. Lorenzo can hardly believe what he's seeing. He finds Clara's body 4 hours later. The Frenchwoman lies in a crevasse at 8,000 meters. Nearby, an ice axe, a flashlight, a torn length of rope. It looks like an accident. She must have fallen into the crack during a night climb. But the details don't add up. Why leave the tent in the heart of the storm? Why abandon Dimitri without help? And above all, why was her body found so far from camp? Lorenzo descends to base camp with the bodies of his teammates. He gives officials a simple version. A block of ice collapsed in the night, crushing the tent. Dimitri died instantly. Clara tried to escape, but froze to death. But rumors begin to spread in base camp. Porters whisper that they saw a faint light on the slope that night. Someone was climbing higher while everyone else hid from the storm. She might have gone on her own, one Sherpa says, left the man to die and tried for the summit, but the mountain punished her for her cruelty. Others shake their heads. No one could climb in a storm like that. It would be suicide. Clara was too experienced to take such a risk. A search team finds Clara's diary in her backpack. The final entry cuts off mid-sentence. Dimitri is sleeping. The wind is calming. Maybe I should try for the summit. If I don't come back, the entry ends abruptly. What was Clara trying to say? Was she planning a night push for the summit? Or did she sense her own death approaching? The investigation drags on for a month. Pakistani authorities rule it an accident. The official version: a block of ice destroyed the tent. The climbers died of exposure. But questions remain. Too many odd details, too many coincidences. Clara Moreau carried her secrets to the grave, leaving the climbing world to speculate. Her body arrives in France 2 weeks later, sealed in a zinc coffin. Her parents meet the plane in Lyon. The mother weeps, the father's face is stone. They had lost their daughter long before her physical death. The mountains had taken her years ago. The funeral is set for November 15th in her hometown of Chamonix. Hundreds come, climbers, journalists, officials. The president of France sends a wreath with the ribbon to a national heroine. The mayor speaks of a daughter of the mountains who brought glory to French alpinism. But Clara's will stuns the family. She asks that her ashes be scattered in 14 places, on every 8,000er in the world. "Let my soul live where I was happiest," she had written a year before her death. Her parents manage only part of it. Some of her ashes are scattered on Mont Blanc, where Clara took her first steps as a climber. Another portion on Everest, which she summited without oxygen. The rest of the 8,000ers remain untouched, too costly for her aging parents, who entrust the task to other climbers. Clara leaves her mountaineering library to the museum in Chamonix. 3,000 volumes of books, maps, expedition reports. Among them, her diaries from the past decade. The entries reveal the inner world of a woman who lived only for altitude. "Men fall in love with me because they see freedom, but I bring them only ruin. The mountains taught me to take without giving. That is my strength and my curse." The mountaineering community remembers Clara that way. The one who abandoned partners in critical moments, who used others' work for her own glory, who turned climbing into a game of survival. She broke the mountain's first law, says German climber Kurt Weber. Partners are meant to support each other. Clara treated people like expendable gear. That goes against the very spirit of mountaineering. Her defenders disagree. Mountains know no morality, only strength. The Frenchwoman was honest about her intentions. She didn't deceive, didn't make false promises. Everyone who climbed with her knew the rules of the game. Eric Lindbergh stayed silent until 2005. Then he gave a single interview to Outside Magazine. He spoke of his relationship with Clara without bitterness, but without romanticizing it either. She was like the mountain itself, beautiful and deadly. To love her meant accepting the risk of being broken. I took that risk knowingly. I can't blame her for the consequences. The life of Clara Moreau was like the mountain itself, majestic and breathtaking from afar, lethal up close. She conquered 8 of the world's highest peaks and the hearts of dozens of men. She reached heights others only dream about. But at what cost? How many lives were crushed by her ambition? How many futures shattered by her selfishness? Clara got everything she wanted: fame, recognition, a place in history, and lost the one thing that makes us human: the ability to love someone more than ourselves. The mountains claimed her soul long before they claimed her body. The Black Widow of alpinism didn't die on Dhaulagiri. She died the day she decided the summit mattered more than anything else. Clara's story is a lesson for anyone who dreams of altitude. The mountains give everything: beauty, adrenaline, the meaning of life. But in return, they demand total devotion. Whoever gives them their heart risks losing their soul. That's it for today. I'm just getting started, and your feedback means a lot. Tell me in the comments what you liked about this story, and what didn't work for you. How do you see Clara, hero or anti-hero? I read every comment and do my best to respond. And don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty more stories ahead that we'll uncover together.